The morning sky above Seoul turned purple when the alien ships arrived. Giant vessels blocked out the sun as they positioned themselves over every major city on Earth, and the silence that followed was broken only by the sound of car alarms and screaming people who pointed at the sky with shaking fingers. Minho sat in his office on the 47th floor of the United Nations building and watched through his window as one of the massive ships cast its shadow over the Han River, and he felt something strange happen inside his chest as his lips curved upward into a smile. The holographic projector in the center of the conference room flickered to life without anyone touching it, and suddenly the air filled with the image of something that looked like a giant insect standing upright on two legs with four arms and eyes that sparkled like broken glass. The creature wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly, and when it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, as if the walls themselves were talking. "We are the Galactic Council," the creature said, and its words were somehow translated directly into every human language simultaneously so that everyone on Earth could understand perfectly what was being said. "Your species has been observed for many cycles, and we have determined that you are a threat to the established order of this galaxy." Minho leaned back in his chair and gestured for his assistant Nari to start recording everything, while his other staff members Gina and Hyan moved to their stations and began pulling up files that had been prepared for exactly this moment. "You humans have advanced too quickly," the alien continued, "and your aggressive nature combined with your rapid technological development makes you unsuitable for integration into civilized galactic society." The creature raised one of its four arms, and suddenly holographic images filled the air, showing human colonies on Mars and Europa along with the mining stations in the asteroid belt and the deep space exploration vessels that had been quietly mapping nearby star systems. "You have spread beyond your homeworld without permission, and you have developed weapons that violate several interstellar treaties that you were never told about because we assumed you would never advance far enough to matter." Nari looked up from her tablet and caught Minho's eye with a questioning look, but he simply nodded, and his smile grew a little wider as he watched the alien ambassador continue its speech. "You will have exactly 72 of your Earth hours to comply with the following demands," the creature announced, and suddenly text appeared in the air written in every human language and script. "First, you will immediately ground all spacecraft and dismantle your space-based infrastructure. Second, you will destroy all weapons of mass destruction and surrender your military forces to Galactic Council oversight. Third, you will submit to genetic modification that will reduce your aggressive tendencies and limit your reproductive rate to sustainable levels. Fourth, your leaders will report to designated council representatives who will govern your world according to established galactic law." The holographic alien paused, and its compound eyes seemed to focus directly on every person watching, as if it could see through the cameras into their souls. "If you refuse these terms, you will face the combined military might of 47 advanced civilizations who have maintained peace in this galaxy for over 10,000 years. Your primitive weapons and small fleet will be destroyed in minutes, and your planet will be occupied by forces that consider your species to be barely above the level of dangerous animals." The transmission ended abruptly, and the holographic projector shut down, leaving the conference room in sudden silence except for the distant sounds of chaos in the streets below. Minho stood up slowly and walked to the window where he could see people running in panic, while others stood still and stared up at the alien ships with expressions of terror and disbelief. He pulled out his secure communication device and pressed a series of buttons that connected him directly to Admiral Taiho, who was commanding the Luna Station Alpha facility on the dark side of the moon Taiho. "The deadline is 72 hours, Minho said calmly, and his voice carried the same strange calm that had filled him since the moment the alien ships appeared. "Understood, sir," came the reply, and Minho could hear the excitement in the Admiral's voice, mixed with something that sounded almost like relief. "Activate Protocol 7 and contact all deep space observers," Minho continued, while he watched the alien ships hovering motionless above the city like storm clouds that refused to rain. "Tell them, it's finally time to show our guests what humans do when someone tries to take away their toys." He ended the call and turned back to his staff, who were all staring at him with expressions that mixed confusion with growing understanding as they began to realize that their boss was not surprised by what had just happened. "Gina, you need to contact Dr. Somin at the Pacific Deep Research Facility and tell her that Project Prometheus is now officially active, Hyun. I want you to send activation codes to all sleeper cells in the outer colonies and make sure our friends on Europa and Titan know that the game has finally begun. Nari, you're with me, because we need to address the world leaders and explain why humanity's response to this ultimatum is going to be very different from what our alien visitors expect." The staff moved quickly to their tasks, while Minho returned to his window and watched the panic in the streets slowly turn into something else, as emergency broadcasts began explaining that everyone should remain calm and wait for instructions from their governments. What the Galactic Council did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for over 50 years, ever since the first crashed alien probe had been recovered from the bottom of the Pacific Ocean in 1973. The wreckage had been quietly studied by an international team of scientists who had reverse-engineered technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans should have been able to understand. Hidden facilities on Earth and throughout the solar system had been developing weapons and defensive systems based on alien technology, while carefully maintaining the appearance of a primitive species that posed no real threat to anyone. The space program that the world knew about was just for show, while the real fleet had been built in secret, using materials and construction techniques that came from studying alien engineering. Deep space monitoring stations disguised as research satellites had been tracking Galactic Council ships for decades and recording their communication frequencies and tactical procedures. Most importantly, humanity had learned that the galaxy was not as peaceful as the Council claimed, and that their so-called advanced civilizations were actually rigid hierarchies based on fear and intimidation rather than genuine cooperation. Minho smiled, again as he thought about the look on the alien ambassador's compound eyes, when it realized that its carefully planned intimidation display had produced exactly the opposite reaction from what was intended. The 72-hour deadline was not a demand for surrender, but an opportunity for humanity to reveal what it had really been doing while the galaxy thought they were just another primitive species playing with fire. He opened his communication device again and sent a single-coded message to contacts around the world and throughout the solar system. The message was simple, and it carried the same calm confidence that had filled him since the moment the alien ships appeared in Earth's sky time to dance. Admiral Tejo stood in the command center of Luna Station Alpha and watched as the massive screens around him filled with tactical information that would have seemed impossible to any observer from the Galactic Council. The lunar facility was built inside a crater on the far side of the moon, where Earth's radio interference could not reach, and where the alien surveillance systems had never been able to penetrate the carefully designed shielding that made the entire complex invisible to their sensors. Tejo had been waiting for this moment for 23 years, ever since he had been recruited as a young pilot to join what was officially called the Deep Space Research Initiative, but which everyone involved knew was actually humanity's secret preparation for Galactic War. Captain Jiwon appeared on the main communication screen from her position aboard the stealth destroyer Invisible Wind, which was currently hiding in the shadow of one of Jupiter's moons while monitoring the alien fleet movements throughout the solar system. "Sir, we have confirmed positions on 437 alien capital ships," Jiwon reported, and her voice carried the same calm excitement that seemed to be spreading through the entire human military network. "They are maintaining standard formation patterns that match the tactical manuals we recovered from the crashed probe in 2019, and they appear to be completely unaware that we have been tracking their movements since they entered our solar system 6 months ago." Tejo nodded and turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Young-ho, who was coordinating with observation posts throughout the solar system to build a complete picture of the alien fleet deployment. "The Council ships are using stealth technology that is approximately 40 years behind our current detection capabilities," Young-ho announced while highlighting enemy positions on the holographic display. "Their cloaking systems are based on light refraction rather than true invisibility, and our quantum sensors can easily penetrate their defensive screens." Meanwhile, in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Somin made final adjustments to the most important secret weapon in humanity's arsenal as the Project Prometheus facility hummed with power that came from technology that officially did not exist. The underwater complex was built around the recovered alien drive core that had been salvaged from multiple crash sites over the past 5 decades and reverse-engineered by teams of scientists who had sworn oaths of secrecy that carried penalties more severe than death. Soman's assistant Do-Yoon monitored the quantum field generators that were preparing to tear holes in space-time itself using principles that the Galactic Council had banned throughout their territory because they considered such technology too dangerous for any species to possess. The dimensional tunneling system is ready for activation, Dr. Soman Do-Hyun reported while checking readings that showed power levels building toward the point where reality itself would become negotiable. All pocket dimension facilities are responding, and our parallel construction yards report that the main battle fleet is prepared for immediate deployment. Soman smiled as she thought about the expression that would soon appear on alien faces when they discovered that humanity had not only stolen their technology, but had improved it beyond anything they thought possible. The aliens had made the mistake of assuming that humans would approach their technology the same way that other species did, by trying to copy it exactly without understanding the underlying principles. Instead, human scientists had torn apart every piece of alien hardware they could find and rebuilt it using human engineering principles that emphasized adaptability and innovation over rigid adherence to established procedures. The result was weapons and defensive systems that were technically inferior to alien technology, but which functioned in ways that alien tactical planning could not predict. Or counterback on Earth, Director Minho addressed a secure meeting of world leaders who had gathered in a virtual conference room that existed in quantum-encrypted space, where alien surveillance could not penetrate. Prime Minister Yoon-ji of the European Federation appeared as a hologram from her secure bunker beneath Brussels, while President Seok-jin participated from a similar facility hidden under the Rocky Mountains. Ladies and gentlemen, Minho began while sharing tactical displays that showed the true scope of humanity's secret military preparations. Operation Human Spirit is now active, and I can finally reveal what our species has been working toward for the past 50 years. The alien ultimatum is not a surprise because we have been expecting this moment since we first learned that we were not alone in the galaxy and that the civilizations out there were not as peaceful as they wanted us to believe. Hidden construction facilities throughout the solar system have been building a fleet using hybrid human-alien technology that combines the best features of both approaches to engineering. Our deep space monitoring network has been tracking Galactic Council activities for decades, and we know more about their capabilities and weaknesses than they know about ours. Most importantly, we have learned that their entire civilization is based on intimidation and hierarchy rather than genuine technological superiority. President Seok-jin leaned forward with an expression of amazement as the tactical displays showed the positions of human ships that had been hiding throughout the solar system using stealth technology that was generations ahead of anything the aliens possessed. How many ships do we actually have? He asked while studying fleet positions that showed hundreds of vessels that officially did not exist. Admiral Taiho's voice joined the conference from Luna Station Alpha, where he was coordinating the final preparations for what would either be humanity's greatest victory or its final battle. We have been building ships in pocket dimensions for 30 years using materials harvested from asteroid mining operations that the aliens think are just scientific research. Our main battle fleet consists of over 800 capital ships, plus support vessels and fighter craft that use propulsion systems based on controlled black hole manipulation. The aliens think we are still using chemical rockets, because that is all they have been allowed to observe. Prime Minister Yoon-ji studied the deployment patterns with the eye of someone who had spent years preparing for this moment. What about civilian casualties, she asked, while looking at projections that showed the alien fleet positioned directly over major population centers. The aliens chose those positions because they believe it will prevent us from fighting back effectively. Minho replied with the same calm confidence that had characterized his responses since the crisis began. They do not understand that human tactical thinking is based on protecting what we love, rather than avoiding risk to ourselves. Our defensive systems will ensure that no alien weapon reaches Earth's surface, while our offensive capabilities will demonstrate why threatening human civilians is the worst mistake any species can make. Captain Min-soo reported in from the edge of the solar system, where his stealth frigate Indomitable was monitoring long-range alien communications, and preparing for the first phase of the human counterattack. Sir, the alien fleet is maintaining radio silence except for standard formation updates, Minsu announced, while his sensors tracked movement patterns that revealed alien overconfidence. They appear to believe that human surrender is inevitable, and they are already discussing occupation procedures and resource allocation. Their fleet commanders are treating this as a routine enforcement action rather than a potential military engagement. Dr. Samin's voice joined the conference from the Pacific facility where Project Prometheus was approaching full operational readiness. The dimensional gateway is prepared for activation, and our parallel construction yards are ready to deploy the primary battle fleet. Once we begin this operation, there will be no possibility of retreat or negotiation because we will be revealing capabilities that will fundamentally change the balance of power in this galaxy. The question is whether humanity is ready to accept the responsibility that comes with that kind of power. Minho looked around the virtual conference room at faces that showed determination mixed with the understanding that the next few hours would determine whether humanity remained a free species or became another conquered world in the Galactic Council's empire. We have spent 50 years preparing for this moment, and now it is time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten a species that has learned to turn impossible odds into opportunities for growth, activate all systems, and prepare for Operation Checkmate. The countdown to humanity's real first contact was about to begin. Fleet Commander Krixtal stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Dominion and watched the primitive blue world spinning slowly beneath his fleet with the satisfaction of a predator that had cornered its prey. The human planet showed no signs of military preparation, and their space-based infrastructure remained exactly where it had been when his ships arrived, which suggested that the primitive species had accepted the inevitability of their surrender. His tactical officer reported that human communication networks were broadcasting messages telling their population to remain calm and wait for instructions from their governments, which was exactly the kind of response that the Galactic Council expected from species that understood their place in the cosmic hierarchy. What Krixtal could not detect were the millions of microscopic devices that had been slowly moving into position around his fleet for the past 6 hours. Each microsatellite was smaller than a grain of sand, and constructed using metamaterials that made them completely invisible to conventional sensors, while carrying enough exotic matter to destabilize the quantum fields that held matter together. The positioning of these devices had been coordinated by human artificial intelligence systems that calculated trajectory and timing with precision that would have impressed even the most advanced alien computers. Dr. Somin monitored the deployment from her command center in the Pacific facility, while Project Prometheus built up to full power and prepared to open doorways in spacetime that would allow the real human fleet to enter normal space. The dimensional tunneling system was based on alien technology that the Galactic Council had banned throughout their territory because they considered it too dangerous for any civilization to possess. Human scientists had not only mastered the banned technology, but had improved it beyond anything the aliens thought possible by combining their rigid mathematical models with human intuition and creative problem-solving. Do Yun called out power readings that showed the quantum field generators approaching the point where they could tear holes in reality itself. All parallel facilities report ready status, and the main battle fleet is standing by in pocket dimensions throughout the solar system. Fleet deployment will begin in 30 minutes, and once we open the first gateway, there will be no way to hide what we have been building. Somin smiled as she thought about the shock that would soon register on alien faces when they realized that humanity had been using their own forbidden technology against them. Admiral Tejo coordinated the final preparations from Luna Station Alpha, while his staff monitored alien communication frequencies and tracked the movement patterns of individual ships in the Council fleet. The aliens were maintaining standard formation protocols that had been used successfully against dozens of other species over the centuries, and they showed no awareness that human forces were preparing to engage them using tactics that had never been seen in galactic warfare. Captain Jiwan reported from her position near Jupiter, where the stealth destroyer Invisible Wind was preparing to begin the first phase of the human counterattack. All deep space units are in position and ready to begin electronic warfare operations on your command. The alien fleet is using communication protocols that we have been studying for decades, and their quantum encryption is vulnerable to the virus programs we developed from their own crashed technology. Taiho nodded and opened a channel to every human military unit throughout the solar system. All stations, this is Admiral Taiho, and Operation Checkmate is now active. Phase 1 will begin with electronic warfare designed to disrupt alien coordination and create confusion in their command structure. Phase 2 will involve the deployment of our main battle, fleet through dimensional gateways that will position our forces inside their defensive perimeter. Phase 3 will demonstrate to the Galactic Council why threatening humanity was the worst mistake they could have made. On Earth, Director Minho stood before cameras that would broadcast his message to every human on the planet through quantum entanglement transmitters that had been hidden in consumer electronics for over 20 years. Citizens of Earth, he began while his calm voice reached directly into the minds of billions of people simultaneously. Today, our species faces a choice between surrender and freedom. The Galactic Council has demanded that we abandon our colonies and submit to genetic modification that would destroy everything that makes us human. Their ultimatum assumes that we are primitive creatures who will bow to superior force. They are about to learn that they have made a serious error in judgment. What they do not know is that humanity has been preparing for this moment since we first learned that we were not alone in the universe. Our scientists have been studying alien technology for 50 years, and our engineers have built weapons and defensive systems that combine the best features of both civilizations. Our military has been training for galactic warfare while maintaining the appearance of a species that poses no threat to anyone. Most importantly, our people have been united by the understanding that freedom is worth any price, and that no species has the right to demand our surrender. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten a species that has spent its entire history climbing impossible mountains and refusing to accept the word no. The transmission ended, and immediately every human on Earth received activation codes that turned their personal devices into nodes in a communication network that could not be intercepted or disrupted by alien technology. Captain Minsu watched from the edge of the solar system as space itself began to fold and twist around coordinates that had been calculated by quantum computers using mathematics that violated several laws of physics. The first dimensional gateway opened near Neptune, and through it came ships that should not have existed, using propulsion systems that turned black holes into engines and weapons that fired concentrated mathematics instead of conventional energy. The human fleet that emerged from pocket dimensions was unlike anything that had ever been seen in galactic warfare. Each ship was a masterpiece of hybrid engineering that combined alien technology with human innovation to create vessels that could phase in and out of normal space while maintaining full combat capability. Admiral Nari commanded the defense of Earth itself from a facility that existed in folded space where normal physics did not apply and where human creativity had been given unlimited freedom to develop solutions to impossible problems. All planetary defense systems are active and ready to demonstrate why attacking our homeworld was an act of supreme foolishness. The Van Allen radiation belts have been converted into weapon systems that can channel solar wind into focused energy beams. Our gravity generators are prepared to turn Earth's magnetic field into a shield that will reflect any attack back at its source. Fleet Commander Krixtal stared at his tactical displays with growing confusion as his sensors began reporting impossible readings. Ships were appearing throughout his fleet formation, but they did not match any known design patterns, and they were using propulsion systems that his computers insisted could not exist. His communication officer reported that human broadcasts were somehow penetrating their quantum encryption and introducing virus programs that were rewriting alien computer systems from the inside out. Most disturbing of all, his weapons targeting systems were receiving data that convinced them they were flying backwards through time, while his navigation computers insisted that normal space had been replaced by 17 different dimensions. "Sir, the human fleet is not using conventional weapons," one of his officers reported while studying readings that made no sense according to established physics. "They appear to be firing pure information at our ships, and somehow this is causing physical damage to our hulls and electronic systems. Our defensive screens cannot stop attacks that consist of mathematical equations." Krixtal realized with growing horror that his fleet was not facing primitive humans with stolen technology, but rather a species that had taken alien science and rebuilt it according to principles that the Galactic Council had never imagined. the 72. Our ultimatum was not a demand for surrender, but rather an invitation for humanity to reveal what they had really been doing while the galaxy thought they were just another conquered species waiting to happen. The battle that followed would not be a military engagement, but rather a lesson in what happened when you threatened a species that had learned to turn survival into an art form and creativity into a weapon. The first wave of human attacks hit the Galactic Council fleet like a storm made of pure mathematics. Captain Jiwan piloted her destroyer Invisible Wind through formations of alien ships that suddenly found their navigation systems convinced they were flying backwards through time, while their weapons targeting computers tried to lock onto targets that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. The virus programs that human computers had developed from decades of studying. Crashed alien technology spread through Council communication networks like digital wildfire and rewrote quantum encryption protocols from the inside out. Fleet Commander Krixtal watched his tactical displays fill with error messages as half his fleet reported that their gravity generators were producing thrust in directions that did not exist according to normal physics. "Sir, the human weapons are not firing matter or energy," his science officer announced while staring at sensor readings that violated everything he understood about the universe. "They appear to be launching concentrated mathematical equations that convince our ship systems to behave in ways that contradict their programming. Our computers are receiving instructions written in languages that should not be possible, and our hull integrity is failing because our own systems believe they are made of materials that cannot exist." Admiral Tejo coordinated the human attack from Luna Station Alpha while watching with satisfaction as alien ships began to lose formation, coherence, and drift helplessly through space. The Council fleet had been designed to fight conventional enemies using established tactical procedures, but they had no defense against weapons that attacked the mathematical foundations of reality itself. Captain Young-ho reported from his position aboard the battlecruiser Defiant Logic, where his crew was demonstrating what happened when human creativity was applied to alien technology without the restrictions that limited other species. "Sir, we have successfully convinced 3 alien capital ships that they are actually flying in reverse, and their crews are now trying to navigate backwards through their own fleet formation. Our reality. Modification systems are working exactly as designed, and the enemy appears to have no countermeasures for attacks that target the logical structure of their computer systems rather than their physical hulls." Dr. Somin monitored the battle from her command center in the Pacific while Project Prometheus opened doorways in space-time that allowed human ships to appear inside alien defensive perimeters without traveling through normal space. The dimensional tunneling system was performing beyond all expectations as human vessels phased in and out of reality while maintaining full combat capability. "Our forces are demonstrating complete superiority in 4-dimensional warfare," Do-Yun reported while tracking ship movements that followed patterns that should have been impossible according to alien understanding of physics. "The Council fleet cannot target vessels that exist in pocket dimensions, and their weapons are completely ineffective against ships that can phase through normal matter most. Importantly, their tactical computers cannot process movement patterns that involve ships arriving at their destinations before they actually depart from their starting positions." Captain Minsu brought his stealth frigate Indomitable into close range with the alien flagship and activated boarding procedures that involved controlled wormholes rather than conventional assault shuttles. His boarding parties materialized directly inside alien ships and immediately began installing human computer systems that took control of life support and navigation while the alien crews stood helplessly by. The humans who appeared on alien bridges wore armor that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously and carried weapons that fired concentrated probability rather than traditional energy beams. "We have successfully captured 12 alien capital ships without firing a single conventional shot," Minsu reported, while his teams demonstrated that human boarding tactics involved mathematics rather than violence. "Their crews are unharmed, but completely unable to regain control of their own vessels because our computer systems are running on principles that their technology cannot understand." Or Counter-Admiral Nari commanded Earth's planetary defense systems from a facility that existed in folded space where the normal laws of physics had been temporarily suspended to allow for more creative approaches to warfare. The Van Allen radiation belts had been converted into weapon systems that channeled solar wind into focused energy beams. while Earth's magnetic field became a shield that could reflect any attack back at its source. Planetary Defense Grid is fully operational and prepared to demonstrate why attacking our homeworld was the worst possible tactical decision. Our gravity generators have turned the entire solar system into a weapon, and any hostile action against Earth will result in consequences that extend throughout local space. The alien fleet found itself trapped inside a sphere of modified space-time, where human technology had rewritten the fundamental laws that governed matter and energy fleet. Commander Crixtal realized with growing terror that his forces were not engaged in conventional warfare, but rather trapped inside a demonstration of what happened when you threatened a species that had learned to treat physics as a set of suggestions rather than absolute rules. The humans were not trying to destroy his fleet, but rather to educate the Galactic Council about the consequences of underestimating a civilization that approached problems by asking why things had to work the way they always had. His communication systems suddenly activated without his permission, and he found himself speaking directly with Director Minho, who appeared as a hologram on his bridge. Even though no transmission had been received, Commander Crixtal Minho said with the same calm smile that had appeared when the alien ultimatum was first delivered. Hope you are beginning to understand that this engagement is not proceeding according to your expectations. Your fleet is currently trapped inside a region of space where human technology has modified the basic laws that govern reality. We could destroy every one of your ships in approximately 4 minutes, but that would not serve our purposes. Instead, we are offering you and your crews an opportunity to learn something that the Galactic Council has apparently forgotten. Crixtal found his voice, though. His compound eyes were having difficulty focusing on the impossible human who somehow appeared to be standing directly in front of him despite being thousands of kilometers away. "What are you?" he asked, while his tactical displays showed that his entire fleet was now under complete human control. "We are explorers," Minho replied while gesturing to holographic displays that showed not conquest, but star charts marking thousands of unexplored systems. "We are gardeners who see a universe, full of potential and wonder why anyone would want to rule it when they could help it grow. Your council maintains order through fear and intimidation, but we have discovered that cooperation and curiosity are far more effective approaches to galactic civilization." Captain Jiwan reported that the remaining alien ships had stopped attempting to fight back and were now requesting permission to communicate with their command authorities. So the enemy fleet appears to be experiencing some kind of philosophical crisis. Their crews are asking questions about the nature of reality and the purpose of galactic civilization rather than trying to continue military operations. Several alien commanders have requested permission to tour our vessels and learn about human engineering principles. Dr. Somin announced from the Pacific facility that Project Prometheus had successfully demonstrated humanity's ability to modify space-time itself according to human preferences rather than alien restrictions. Dimensional tunneling system has proven that human science is not limited by the same constraints that restrict other species. We have shown that banned technology becomes safe and useful when applied by a civilization that values growth over control. Admiral Taiho opened communication channels to every human facility throughout the solar system and announced that Phase 3 of Operation Checkmate was now complete all stations. The demonstration is finished, and the Galactic Council fleet is now ready to begin learning about alternative approaches to interstellar relations. Prepare to welcome our guests aboard human vessels where they can observe what happens when technology is developed by a species that believes the universe is meant to be explored rather than controlled. The battle was over, but the real education was just beginning. 6 months after the day that changed galactic history, Ambassador Velthar sat in a conference room that existed in folded space aboard the human command ship Sisyphus and tried to understand how everything he had believed about the universe had been proven wrong in the span of a few hours. The chamber where he met with Director Minho was a marvel of human engineering that somehow remained stable despite local gravity pointing in 7 different directions, while windows showed views of Earth and Luna and 14 other star systems simultaneously. Through those impossible windows, he could see construction projects that defied everything. The Galactic Council thought they knew about physics as human engineering teams worked alongside alien scientists to build structures that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. "Your ultimatum was very educational," Minho said while pouring tea from a pot that somehow remained level despite the bizarre gravitational environment. It helped us understand that the Galactic Council rules through fear rather than wisdom, and that your civilization has become stagnant because you discourage the kind of creative thinking that leads to real progress. Velthar's compound eyes focused on the star charts that covered the walls, showing not territorial boundaries, but exploration routes that mapped thousands of uninhabited systems suitable for colonization by any species that wanted to expand beyond their homeworlds. We offered. "You surrender," he said while struggling to process information that challenged every assumption about galactic politics. "Instead, you have somehow convinced 43 council member species to abandon the government that has maintained order for 10,000 years. How did you accomplish this without conquest or intimidation?" Minho smiled the same calm smile that had appeared when the council first threatened Earth, and gestured toward displays showing collaborative projects between human and alien scientists. "We showed them what becomes possible when different species work together to solve problems rather than competing for dominance over each other." Captain Minsu entered the chamber through a doorway that definitely had not been there moments before, carrying a device that hummed with energies that made Velthar's translator struggle to find words for concepts that had no equivalent in council languages. "The dimensional mapping project is complete," Sir Minsu announced, while activating holographic displays that showed the true structure of local galactic space. "We have identified the source of the dark matter fluctuations in the Andromeda spiral, and Dr. Soman believes we can stabilize the quantum fields that are causing stellar formation anomalies throughout that region. Our new Andromedan partners are eager to begin joint exploration missions using human dimensional tunneling technology combined with their expertise in stellar engineering." Velthar realized that the humans were not just offering partnership, but were actively solving problems that the Council had not even known existed. "Your species has been in contact with civilizations beyond our galaxy?" he asked while studying star charts that showed communication networks extending far beyond the boundaries of Council space. "We discovered that the Galactic Council was actually a very small and isolated group compared to the broader community of intelligent species throughout local space," Nari explained as she materialized beside them through quantum tunneling. "Your government deliberately prevented member species from learning about external civilizations because contact with more advanced societies might have encouraged questions about council methods. We have spent the past 6 months introducing your former subjects to neighbors they never knew they had." Dr. Soman appeared in the chamber accompanied by Captain Jiwon and several alien scientists who were working together on projects that combined human creativity with non-human expertise in fields that neither species could have developed alone. "The universal cooperation model is exceeding all expectations," Soman reported while sharing data that showed technological advances occurring at rates that would have been impossible under the old system. "Collaborative research teams are making discoveries that benefit every participating species, and our joint exploration missions have identified 47 new civilizations that are interested in joining the cooperative network. Most importantly, we have learned that every species has unique capabilities that become exponentially more powerful when combined with the abilities of others." Velthar studied reports showing that former Council territories were experiencing unprecedented prosperity as species that had been restricted to their homeworlds for centuries suddenly gained access to advanced transportation and communication technologies. The old system maintained order through limitation, he observed while reviewing economic data that showed universal improvements in living standards. "Your approach creates stability through opportunity. Why does this work when our methods were proven successful for so many?" Millennia Admiral Taiho joined the discussion from his position aboard Luna Station Alpha, where he was coordinating joint defense operations with former Council military commanders who had enthusiastically embraced human tactical innovations. "The Council system worked for a while because it provided security in exchange for freedom," Taiho explained while sharing tactical analyses that showed how cooperation produced better defensive capabilities than hierarchical command structures at AudioBook. "Security based on fear eventually becomes stagnation because species stop growing when they are not allowed to take risks. Our approach provides security through mutual support, which encourages growth because every species benefits when their partners succeed," Captain Young-ho reported from the bridge of his vessel, where mixed human and alien crews were demonstrating that integration led to capabilities that neither species could achieve alone. "Sir, the joint exploration mission to the Vega system has discovered a derelict civilization that appears to have died out because they became too dependent on artificial intelligence. The archaeological team believes we can learn important lessons about the balance between technology and biological development. Our Rigelian partners have expertise in digital consciousness research that could help us understand what happened and prevent similar problems in our own civilizations. Director Minho turned to Velthar with an expression that mixed friendship with the kind of excitement that came from contemplating infinite possibilities. The universe is far larger and more interesting than the Council ever imagined, he said, while activating displays that showed collaborative projects extending throughout local galactic space. We have found civilizations that exist in dimensions we never knew about, and others that have learned to manipulate time itself. There are species that communicate through quantum entanglement, and others that build their technology from crystallized mathematics. The Council spent 10,000 years trying to maintain control over a tiny fraction of what actually exists. We prefer to spend our time learning from neighbors we have not met yet. Velthar looked around the chamber at humans and aliens working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system, and realized that everything he had thought he understood about galactic civilization had been fundamentally wrong. Your species has not conquered the galaxy, he said slowly. As understanding began to dawn, you have invited the galaxy to grow beyond what anyone thought was possible. 3 months later, the formal dissolution of the Galactic Council was celebrated throughout local space as 47 civilizations joined the Universal Cooperative in a ceremony that took place simultaneously on hundreds of worlds. The new government had no capital planet and no central authority because decisions were made through consensus among species that had learned to value cooperation over competition. Velthar found himself serving as Minister of Xenobiological Integration, in a role that involved helping newly contacted civilizations understand the benefits of joining a community. Based on mutual curiosity rather than hierarchical control, he often returned to that moment when humanity had smiled at the Council's ultimatum and finally understood what that expression had meant. It was not arrogance or defiance, but recognition that they had finally found someone new to help reach their potential. The humans had looked at the galaxy's greatest military force and seen not an enemy to be defeated, but students who needed to learn that the universe was far more interesting when everyone was free to explore it together. Admiral Taiho established the Galactic Academy, where military officers from every species learned tactics based on protection rather than conquest, while Dr. Soman opened research facilities where scientists collaborated on projects that no single civilization could have attempted alone. Captain Minsu led exploration missions that ventured beyond the local galaxy to make contact with civilizations that existed in regions of space where different physical laws applied. Most importantly, humanity had kept its promise to show the galaxy what became possible when species worked together to solve problems rather than competing for dominance over each other. For the first time in cosmic history, civilizations looked up at the stars not with fear of what might be coming, but with excitement for what they might discover together. The difference was that humans had decided to build ladders instead of walls.